welcome to our very first episode of RBO on Radar. My name is Jazzman Simelane, and I'll be your host. In these episodes, we'll be unpacking risk-based oversight as a new oversight, and we'll be having our industry experts, joined also by my colleagues at SACAA. Today, in this episode, we are unpacking RBO as a new oversight, and with me today, I've got Kathy Teague, who's the RBO lead, and Dean Khumalo, who's the Executive Aviation Safety Operations. What makes RBO different from compliance-based oversight?
Good day to the viewers. As we introduce risk-based oversight methodology, the main difference between compliance and RBO is that RBO gives an opportunity for organizations to still comply. However, the approach by the authority is slightly different in that it may result in reduced or extended number of audits carried out on the organization depending on how they perform on the compliance aspects to the regulations.
Awesome, great. And what advantage does it offer, especially in today's complex aviation environment?
So the advantages of risk-based oversight is that it gives the SACAA and the industry the opportunity to form a partnership and to share information and knowledge and to ensure that aviation safety is increased. That is the main advantage of risk-based oversight in the aviation industry. The advantages to the industry itself is that the SACAA and the industry will form a partnership where we will continue to work together to ensure that aviation safety is the key point. And as Mr. Khumalo said, it could reduce or increase the audit intervals for the industry. But on the industry itself, there is no financial implication on the industry, and there is no burden on the aviation industry at all. The burden remains with the SACAA, not with the industry.
That's great. Thanks, Kathy. On that note, Kathy, let's address how has the operators have received us so far with the pilots of this new approach?
The industry itself, there's not a lot of industry organizations that have been audited on the risk-based approach as yet. But from the audits that we have conducted, the reception was very positive. The industry would help the industry a lot in seeing areas where they could improve, and they've thoroughly enjoyed the communication to and fro and the information sharing. Whereas before, with compliance-based audit, they were asked a question and they had to produce an answer and evidence. Whereas with risk-based approach, it was show us how you are complying to this, and how do you perform during this, which is a total new approach. So the industry was very receptive, and from the industry word spreading out there, a lot of organizations after the initial audits that was conducted, a lot of industry members actually contacted the SACAA voluntarily to ask to be part of the pilot going forward, which really made the SACAA feel very confident that the industry is receiving the risk-based oversight approach from the SACAA very positively.
Awesome. Mr. Khumalo, from a leadership and policy point of view, how does RBO framework align with international best practices?
Whilst the SACAA is embarking on this methodology at this point in time, globally, RBO is not a new concept. There are a number of states that have implemented, like Canada, FAA, Singapore. They have implemented this type of approach. So in terms of the SACAA, we're not really behind the curve. We are on par with most of the states globally. It's just that we've got those fleet leaders, if you like, the pace setters. So we are taking it on board because we can see it as a good tool to use. I mean, if we look at the recent unfortunate incident that happened in India, I think it's still very fresh in everybody's minds. Just today, the Indian authorities have announced that they are going to be embarking on RBO because of the advantages that it brings.
Awesome, great stuff. Thank you for that. Kathy, one way that keeps coming up in RBO is data. Can you walk us through what kind of data are we collecting? How does the information feed into the risk profiles? And how are analytics being used to inform decision making?
The SACAA has been collecting data for many, many, many years, and we have tons and tons and tons of data available to us. And this data has been lying fallow for so many years. Nothing was not really used or it didn't provide the outcome of its intended collection. So with risk-based approach, the data that the SACAA has and is still collecting is now actually finding an avenue where it is being utilized. The data, typical data that we collect is the accident and incident and occurrence in reports from the SACAA, voluntary reporting, defect reporting. We also use the data from previous audits, so findings and observations from previous audits. Then, and the data is all positive data, if you can call it that. But the only data that comes from the more negative side of things, if there is a severe safety concern, is enforcement data. So if there's an enforcement situation with any organization, that data has to be used because that links directly to risk. And then we use any exemption because RBO will always remain compliance-based, the performance to compliance. When someone requests an exemption from the regulations, that then constitute an additional risk to that organization. So that information is then also used. The information, however, is not used as a calculable one. So it is not how many enforcement cases, how many occurrences, how many findings. No, we do not count those. The data we received is analyzed. We look at how you performed in managing that risk. So the data, an occurrence is seen as a risk, an exemption is seen as a risk, enforcement is seen as a risk, and then a finding is seen as a risk. So the risk is analyzed, and we look at how you as the organization performed in managing that risk. And when we have evaluated and analyzed how you manage the risk, we then use all that information to calculate the residual risk. And that residual risk then leads to your risk profile. And that is how data is. The data we use, how it's analyzed, and how it is used towards your risk profile.
Awesome. Great. I think Mr. Kumara talks to what you've touched earlier on around the incident. From an operator's perspective, why should they really embrace RBO? Whether it's an AMO, whether it's an airline, what's in it for them?
So from an operator's perspective, they don't really have to change much in the way they are setting their systems up. The onus is on the authority to adapt and change the way the oversight activity is undertaken. So from an operator's perspective, in as much as they don't have to change much, the benefit perhaps is to ensure that they continue with a good level of compliance, because if compliance is below an expected standard, then RBO dictates that the authority focuses on undertaking audits on those organizations to ensure that they bring them up to par. However, if they are way above the standard, the authority gets to visit them less because their systems are mature, their level of compliance is high, and the confidence that the authority has on any of those operators is of that level. The partnership in terms of the data exchange ensures that the authority at any given time is aware of the activities happening at any of these organizations that we undertake oversight.
Awesome. So Dean, let's look at it from the operator's perspective. Why should they embrace RBO?
Yeah, look, Jez, obviously it's a new concept which still has to have that buy-in through a number of workshops that we've had. So the industry is familiar with the RBO model that we're rolling out. From their perspective, the main reason why I think they would embrace it is because it's a data-driven process. So it allows the data exchange to be able to foresee risks and manage them proactively. Because generally we see that when you try to rectify something after the fact, it's generally more expensive than when you are proactive about it. But in the main, this compliance methodology is on the CAA. It's the CAA that has to adapt its processes. It's the CAA that has to put new systems in place. From an operator's perspective, they don't really have to change much. However, the benefits that they stand to gain from embracing this methodology far outweigh the current methods of compliance-based oversight.
100%. Awesome. Kathy, with any new approach or new system, especially with this very transformational, innovative processes, what are some of the key challenges that you've faced internally? Data quality issue, culture resistance? What has been some of your pain points currently?
All of the above. So with any new system, we know there's resistance to change, so we understand that. When it comes to the data, quality of the data, and I do accept the fact that the data have been collected for many years and was not really properly utilized within the CAA, contributed to the fact that the industry, when reporting, doesn't have the level of respect for the reporting as they should. So data, even though it has been through the SMS system, the data, quality of the data have been advertised, it has been spoken to, it has been standardized. There are still a measure of the lack of quality data and data reporting out there. So that is being constantly addressed with the industry, with the internal CAA parties. When found, it is addressed and it is corrected as we go along, and that is normal for any system. Then also the resistance to change comes from fear. The fear of sharing too much with the CAA and being penalized for it. We do understand that, and we are working hard in ensuring that the trust bond between the CAA and the industry is built and maintained. In that sense, we hope to address that cultural fear of change. The only way to address it is the proof is in the pudding. You know, you can talk, but if you cannot provide the evidence of what you have spoken to, there will never be the acceptance of that change. And then, you know, you have to go through all the pain points. We also need to ensure that the industry sees that the data we have collected and the information we receive is treated very confidentially, and that there will be no shaming of any mistakes or errors out there. So that is how we hope to address it and the pain points that we've seen so far.
Great stuff. Thank you, Kathy. Dean, as we close, as an executive responsible for this oversight, any last words maybe for our viewers, our internal stakeholders like Inspectorate, as we close the conversation? Last thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Jez. I think we've been on a journey, you know, of establishing this methodology, and that journey is trying to bring everybody on board, our internal staff, our stakeholders, the industry at large, with all the efforts that we have made to sensitize them of this methodology that we're embarking on. So last words from me on behalf of the management and leadership of SACAA is to say, let's all embrace risk-based oversight. It's just for the good. It can only, as Kathy mentioned, change. Sometimes it's people are afraid to change things the way they do things. However, in this particular instance, it brings a lot of benefits for the authority, a lot of benefits for the industry at large, and the aviation system in the country.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.